الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد، فنتابع درسنا في الإجابة على أسئلة النساء، وأيضا في قراءة كتاب الفتاوى الوادعية على الأجوبة النسائية، وهو درس النساء المعتاد. We'll continue our class in answering questions from the sisters, also going through the book, the answers of Sheikh Muqbil Al-Wadi'i, Allah have mercy on him, on questions from the women. يعني مر معنا قبل رمضان أرسلت إحدى الأخوات بسؤال، وهو ما هو حق الزوج على زوجته. يعني the sister, before Ramadan, one sister asked, what is the right of the husband over his wife? And the sister asked, so that she said, so that we will be able to fulfill those rights that are upon us towards our husbands. First of all, we say, may Allah reward the sister. May Allah reward her with good. May Allah increase her in Iman. May Allah increase her in everything that is good. And this is what we should be asking. Those are the questions that we should ask, rather than each one of us looking towards what are his rights, his or her rights upon their spouse. The proper and the correct question should be, what is the right of my spouse over me? Because if each one of us fulfills his right, or fulfills rather his duty, his or her duty, then the rights are fulfilled. And also, if every one of us fulfills the right that is upon him or her, then this is what we will be asked about. This is what we will be questioned about. The rights that are upon us, not the rights that are for us. Our rights over others, we will not be questioned about them, whether or not they were fulfilled. What will be questioned on the Day of Judgment is whether or not we fulfilled the duties, the rights that are upon us. So may Allah reward the sister for this excellent question. And we say, may Allah preserve the sister and all of our sisters and also brothers who are listening. We say the rights of the husband over their wives are many, and what summarizes them, they could all be summarized and combined by saying that his rights over her, the right of the husband over his wife, is that she obeys him in anything that is not a disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That she obeys him in other than the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What that means is if he commands her to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then she does not obey him. If he commands her with anything else that is not a disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if he was to command her to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she does not obey him in this specific matter. However, in everything else, she continues to obey him. So if he commands her with the obligation, with matters that are obligatory, with matters that are a form of seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then she obeys him. Of course, the obedience is based on her ability. If he commands her with something that she's not able to, then she should tell him and inform him that this is beyond her ability. Now, whereas if he commands her with something that is within her ability, whether it is a form of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then of course it is anyways an obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it is an obligatory matter, then it is obligatory to start with. If it is not an obligatory matter, then his command towards her makes it an obligation upon her to fulfill and to obey. And from the greatest of rights of the husband over his wife is without a doubt that she obeys him in regards to having a relationship with her. And there are many commands from the Messenger ﷺ regarding this matter. That the woman should obey her husband in giving him his right in regards to having a relationship with her. As the Messenger ﷺ mentioned in the meaning of the hadith, even if she was by the stove, meaning that she was baking and cooking, and other than that she gives him this right. And that when he asks for it and when he commands her to join him that she joins him. And she gives him the right of having a relationship with her. And also in addition, she does not allow anyone that he does not want to enter into his house. And that she protects him when he is away, in his honor. She protects his honor, and she protects his wealth. And she, of course, from the rights of the husband, and especially nowadays, with the many trials and tribulations, the woman takes care of herself, seeks nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by way of taking care of herself, what they say, dressing up for her husband, and other than that, as to give him the satisfaction and to prevent and keep away the trials and tribulations from her husband. Many men, they fall into sins and disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of the shortcomings of their wives, meaning that they did not give them the right, they did not take care of themselves, and other than that. So this is from the greatest means of seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to a woman, are you married? Do you have a husband? And she said, yes. And he said, look at your position with your husband. Or he is your paradise or your hellfire. Meaning he is the means. He is a means for you. He's a reason for you to either enter the paradise or to enter the hellfire. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned that if the woman, she was to pray the 5 daily prayers, to fast the month of Ramadan and protect herself and obey her husband, then she will enter the paradise. And this is from the greatest of roles that a woman has. And also from the rights of the husband is that she serves him in regards to the worldly affairs, in regards to taking care of the house, taking care of his food, his clothes, and other than that, the stronger opinion, and the correct opinion in regards to that is that it is an obligation upon the woman. If the husband is able to, he helps and he does some of the housework himself, and this is from him doing something that is in addition to what is obligatory upon him. Because what is in regards to that is he is obligated to spend, to work and seek the provision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and spend upon his family. And if he does any of the housework, then this is in addition to what is obligatory upon him. And this would be something, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, he is rewarded for, but not as an obligation, as a recommendation, as something that is extra that he does. Whereas for the women, it is an obligation upon them to take care of the house, to clean the house and cook and prepare the clothes of her husband, her children, and other than that, from the different housework. This is all from the duty of the woman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most wise, the most knowledgeable, subhanahu wa ta'ala, the exalted and high, He knows what is befitting for the men and the women, and what is proper for them, what is the role of the women and what is the role of the man. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the all-knowing, He created the men and the women, and He gave each one of them a role in this life and a duty. And we find that the house becomes corrupted and the household becomes corrupted and becomes destroyed when either one of them does not realize and does not fulfill that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for him as a role. Such as that when we find the women, they leave the house and they keep themselves busy with jobs and other than that, for no reason, for no need, we find that the household becomes corrupted. And likewise, if the husband allows his wife to make all the decisions and to go and work and spend, and other than that, we find that the household becomes corrupted. So the house in general, the family, the household, it requires, for it to be upright and to be correct, it requires each one to do what is upon him, to do the job that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for him and for her. So the husband is could be considered to be like a leader. He is the leader of the house. He leads the house. He makes the major decisions in the house in regards to the household, in regards to the family. Where are they going to live? What does he work? What do they buy? Where? And other than that, the women, their job is like the interior affairs. She takes care of the matters of the house, the interior of the house, meaning the cooking and taking care of the clothes. And other than that, this is the role of the woman. And also from the rights of the husband is that the woman does not leave the house without his permission. She does not leave his house without his permission. Such as she wants to go and visit a sister. She wants to go and buy things, buy groceries, whatever it is, that she should ask her husband. He is her guardian. And also one thing to point out is that the rights of the husband and obedience to the husband far precedes the obedience to the parents. This is something that the parents should understand, and also the wives should understand. As soon as her father gives her in marriage, gives her away in marriage, as soon as he says, I give you my daughter in marriage, as soon as one says that, he should understand that this means her obedience towards him has been lifted or has been moved to her husband. Now she obeys her husband. She no longer obeys him. She no longer obeys her mother. Of course, except in certain things, but her main obedience becomes to her husband. And this is something that should be pointed out, because we find that many times the problems in households is because of the parents trying to be involved with their daughter's life, with their daughter's household and life and how she lives her life. And that is incorrect. And this is why we find many problems happen between husbands and wives, because the parents want to be involved. And that is not correct and that is not proper. And rather, as soon as they give her away in marriage, her obedience becomes to her husband. She obeys her husband. She lives with her husband. She goes where her husband tells her to go. She visits those whom her husband tells her to visit. She goes with him, of course, as we mentioned, except with the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She does not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She does not obey her husband in the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But even if he commands her with disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that she does not obey him in that, but she continues to obey him in other things. Also from the rights of the husband is respect. The wife is supposed to respect her husband, to show him utmost respect. As some of the women of the Salaf, they used to say that we talk with our husbands the way you talk with your leaders, and with the chiefs of the believers, and with the leaders, and with the people of high nobility. This is how the wife is supposed to talk to her husband. She should show him utmost respect, even if he was a sinner, even if he had mistakes and he had shortcomings. And other than that, she should continue to show him respect, to respect him in all of her speech and all of her matters. Now, so those are some of the rights of the husband, and of course this is a lengthy matter, but may Allah reward the sister for asking this question. Inshallah, I tried to summarize some of them in this answer, and inshallah we go back to the book that we started. تقول السائلة: ولا زلنا بارك الله فيكم في فتاوى تتعلق بالطهارة، في باب الفتاوى التي تتعلق بالطهارة من هذا الكتاب. We're in the chapter regarding verdicts connected to the matters of purity and impurity. يقول السائل: هل تقرأ المرأة القرآن وهي على جنابة؟ وهل تمكث الحائض في المسجد؟ Does a woman who is in the major state of impurity, is she allowed to recite the Quran? And could a woman who is on her menses remain in the masjid? قال الشيخ رحمه الله: قال الإجابة: أما هل تقرأ القرآن وهي على جنابة، فهناك حديث علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله عنه: كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرئنا القرآن ما لم يكن جنوبا. So the author رحمه الله, he said, there is the statement of the hadith of Ali رضي الله عنه, that the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم used to recite the Quran and teach us the Quran in all of his states and situation, unless he was in the major state of impurity. قال: ولكنه من طريق عبد الله بن سلمة المرادي، وقد قال تلميذه عمرو بن مرة: كنا نعرف منه وننكر، وجاء من طريق أخرى أي تابعه أبو الغريف أبو الغريف مجهول أو شبه مجهول. ثم إنه اختلف عليه في طريق أبي الغريف، فتارة يروى مرفوعا تارة يروى موقوفا، فالحديث لا يرتقي إلى الحجية، وإن قال فيه الترمذي هذا حديث حسن صحيح. فهو كما علمت من طريق عبد الله بن سلمة المرادي وهو ضعيف. بقي أنه جاء في صحيح البخاري عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أنه كان لا يرى بقراءة القرآن الحائض بأسا. طيب، على كل حال يعني the Shaykh rahimahullah, he went into a discussion regarding the authenticity of the hadith and the chain of narrators. So this is a lengthy matter that some of the people of knowledge, they consider this hadith to be weak, meaning that the Messenger ﷺ used to recite the Quran or to recite to us the Quran in all of his states unless he was in the major state of impurity. This is a hadith that the people of knowledge have differed in regards to the authenticity of this hadith. Most of the people, the scholars of hadith, have considered it to be weak. However, some of the people of knowledge, they consider it to be strong, such as At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, or Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah from the recent scholars, and also Shaykh Ahmad Shakir, and other than them. So this is a matter that the people of knowledge, because of the difference of opinion in regards to the authenticity of the hadith, the people of knowledge, they've differed in regards to whether or not it is permissible for a person who is in the major state of impurity to recite the Quran. And we point out that the difference here is, or the discussion here regarding a person who is in the major state of impurity, not a person who is not a woman who is on her menses. So this is, there is a difference between them. The people of knowledge, they say that the person who is in the major state of impurity, he will be able to take a bath and he can lift that major state of impurity. Whereas a woman who is on her menses, she cannot remove her menses. She does not stop her menses. Now, so على كل حال, the stronger opinion regarding this matter, the stronger opinion, this is what we heard from our Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Maysan hafidhahullah, is that a woman or a man who is in the major state of impurity should not recite not even a single verse of the Quran, and of course should not touch the Quran. And a woman who is on her menses, the stronger opinion regarding a woman who is on her menses is that she is allowed to recite the Quran, but she's not allowed to touch the Quran. She is allowed to touch, of course, electronic devices, like if she has an app with the Quran or on her phone or computer or whatever. This is an electronic device. This is not the Mus'haf, and she's allowed to touch it without a doubt. Or she touches the Quran with a barrier. She's allowed to touch the Quran with a barrier, such as that she wears gloves. Now, is the cover of the Mus'haf, is she allowed to touch it? The people of knowledge, they say no. If it is sawed with or glued with the Quran, then, or with the Mus'haf, then it is a part of the Mus'haf, and one should not touch it while in this major state of impurity, or a woman who is on her menses. Whereas if it is a cover that is removable, that is not a part of the Mus'haf, such as just a removable cover, or she wears gloves and the likes, then she's allowed to touch it بإذن الله تعالى. نعم. على كل حال, قال الشيخ رحمه الله, قال الجنب أيضا كذلك. Likewise, the person who is in the major state of impurity. Now we're back to reading the words of the Shaykh رحمه الله. قال ويحتاج من منع هذا إلى دليل. He said there needs an evidence to prevent that, to make it impermissible for a person who is in the major state of impurity to recite the Quran. قال لماذا؟ أنه ذكر حديث ابن عباس أو أثر ابن عباس أنه كان لا يرى بقراءة القرآن الحائض بأسا. He mentioned the narration of Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما, that he used to not find there is any harm for a woman who is in her menses to recite in reciting the Quran. قال والجنوب أيضا كذلك. He said likewise, the person who is in the major state of impurity is the same way. ويحتاج من منع هذا إلى دليل. There needs to be a specific evidence to prevent that, or to make that impermissible. قال ونسيت شيئا مما يتعلق بمس المصحف. He said, I forgot something regarding touching the mushaf. ألا وهو قوله تعالى لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. The statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that only those who are purified are allowed to no one touches it other than those who are purified. قال استدل بعضهم بالآية على أنه لا يمس المصحف إلا طاهر متوضئ. He said some of the people of knowledge, they say that this is an evidence that no one is allowed to touch the mushaf except one who is pure and one who is in the one who has performed wudu and is not in the major state of impurity. قال ويكون طاهرا من الجنابة ومتوضئا, meaning that he is not in the major or the minor state of impurity. قال ولكن المراد بالمطهرون بقوله المطهرون هم الملائكة. However, what is intended with a statement المطهرون, those who are purified, is the angels. كما قال مالك في موطئه أن هذه الآية وهي قوله تعالى لا يمسه إلا المطهرون تفسرها آية عبس كلا إنها تذكرة فمن شاء ذكرها في صحف مكرمة مرفوعة مطهرة بأيدي سفرة كرام بررة وهم الملائكة. So he explained it, that it is the angels. قال والأمر كما يقول الإمام مالك. He said, and this is the reality, as الإمام مالك رحمه الله said, فإن في سورة الشعراء وما تنزلت به الشياطين وما ينبغي لهم وما يستطيعون إنهم عن السمع لمعزولون. قال والمكث في المسجد. نعم على كل حال. So he spoke regarding touching the mushaf, and what we mentioned, what the stronger opinion is, والله أعلم. قال والمكث في المسجد كذلك. He said remaining in the masjid and sitting in the masjid is the same way. ما أعلم بأسا بهذا. I don't know of a harm in that. قال وقد كانت هناك امرأة لها خيمة في مسجد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. There used to be a woman who had a tent in the masjid of the messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم وهي من النساء تحيض فيه فلا أعلم مانعا من هذا. And he said she was a woman, so she has her menses, so she would remain in the masjid, and she had a tent and would live in the masjid, and she would be on her menses at times. So he said, so therefore I know no evidence to make that impermissible. قال وأما حديث لا أحل المسجد لحائض ولا جنب قال فهو حديث ضعيف. He said, as for the hadith, I do not make the masjid permissible for a woman who is on her menses, nor a person who is in the major state of impurity. He said this is a weak hadith. So this is his statement, rahimahullah. However, there are evidences that a woman who is in her menses should not enter the masjid, and this is a matter of disagreement between the people of knowledge. So it is better for the women who are in their menses to not enter the masjid, and likewise a person who is in the major state of impurity to not enter the masjid, unless he or she is passing by, then that is easier, and unless there is a reason. And one of the evidences of that is the hadith of Salatul Eid, the Eid prayer, that the Messenger sallallahu he mentioned that the women who are on their menses should stay away from the place of prayer. So some of the people now mentioned that it is an evidence that it is not permissible for the women who are on their menses to enter into the masjid. However, it is not really an evidence of that, because it could be understood that it is, of course, al-musalla, the place of Eid prayer, is not a masjid, and rather it is a place of prayer and not a masjid. However, she stays away from it out of worry that some of the blood of the menses might go on the ground or might cause impurity to be in the place of Eid prayer. Wallahu alam. Ala kulli hal. Anyways, it is better for a woman who is on her menses or a person who is in the major state of impurity to not enter the masjid unless there is a reason. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa alam. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.